Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I don't know if it's back, but welcome. And this cup of coffee is almost ready. A couple more drips. Then we can start chatting. Start chatting about the weekend and the week coming and life and all that's going on. All right, here we go. One good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today is Monday. It's November 30th, 2020. My name's Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. You know, as we get closer to the weirdest, worst year of, I think, anyone's lives, I think more of us are coming to realize that the new year isn't going to spark some magical transition where everything changes and viruses go away. That's really sad. Maybe we'll just cancel New Year's. Maybe it'll just be 2020 part two. Well, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you had a great Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I more or less had 5 days off, and that was really nice. Did a tiny little bit of work on Thanksgiving, a little bit of work on Friday. No work at all on Saturday. Did some writing yesterday on the novel. And there we are. Now it's Monday again. I'm at 33,000 words on the novel. It's probably going to end up being 90 to 100,000 words when I'm done. It will easily be the longest thing I've ever written. And it's been a challenge, and it's been really interesting. I laid out these characters enough that they're driving the action. I don't really need to think that hard. I just put them in a situation. How would these people deal with that? And write it down as it comes to me. So what did I do in my non-working time? Well, I went for a hike yesterday, which was really nice. Really muddy, really icy. You might hear that going off. I've got flies. There are fruit flies in the house. I have no idea why. I've checked and cleaned everything, but they're here. And so I've got one of those kitchen bug zappers, and I've been moving it from room to room, and right now it's in here. If they get, there aren't that many of them, so that's probably the last pop you'll hear. But if it gets real annoying, I'll turn it off. Of course, Thanksgiving, lots of cooking, and then lots of leftovers, to the point where last night couldn't deal with it anymore. I made fried rice using absolutely nothing from Thanksgiving dinner, although did have some pie, some apple and some pumpkin pie. Good stuff. Oh. I didn't buy anything on Black Friday. Today is Cyber Monday. So a bunch of you took advantage of the Black Friday promotion that we ran at whistlekick. Grabbed some of the programs, the training programs, at half off. It was a one-day only thing. And today, you can get 35% off all apparel. Why not gear and uniforms? Because we don't have any. Because I didn't order more because of 2020. Because nobody was buying them. So as we started to run out, I just said, we'll just let that sit for now. Yeah, so grab a sweatshirt or a t-shirt. There's a bunch of cool stuff up there. Hats. What else should happen? Well, it's Monday. Should be a podcast episode. Let's see. Whose episode is today? Oh, Sensei Olivia Rooney. That was a fun one. She's been really, really cool. Just her and her staff have been very supportive. Stacy's reminding us, limited edition gear, gotta get some, yes. Everything that we make, almost all the designs for whistlekick are limited edition. So, if you see something you want, you gotta grab it. I could go back to bed. I could certainly go back to bed. Changed the sheets before I went to sleep last night. You ever noticed how much more comfortable a bed is with clean sheets? I don't know what it is. Something about it just feels so nice. And I took a shower because I went for a hike, and so being clean on a clean sheet day is remarkable. You know what else I did this weekend? Friday, I had my first ever phone call with Frank. Those of you who have watched First Cup for a while know Frank, and we've emailed back and forth a bunch. But I said, let's get on the phone. Let's talk, and we talked for almost 90 minutes. Had a great conversation. If I'm going to be selfish and say, what have I gotten the most out of Whistlekick? It's the connections to people. It's meeting so many of you and talking to you and emailing with you and just knowing that in at least one way, our love for the martial arts, we're on the same page. And that really means a lot to me. Knowing that something that I hold so dear means a lot to you. Fun day Friday, Frank. Yes, Stacy, that's a great way to put it. It was a fun call. We had a good time. We chatted about everything. And just as you might imagine from the quotes and subjects he puts up here, he can talk about anything. So between the two of us, we talked about everything. It was a good time. I'm sure it'll happen again. Hope it does. What's going on today? I'm going to write more. Go to the gym. Ugh. Eat more leftovers. I made a lot of stuffing. I made 2 old trays of stuffing. One of them didn't come out great. But it's okay. Still good. Still stuffing. Writing. Gym. Work. There's no interviews today. I got a couple phone calls. Just getting through stuff. This is a weird time of year because people don't want to do new things. My client work, it's just holding steady. People don't want to, they just kind of want to turtle up, just hang out. And it's funny, if you ever see any kind of game, football game, point sparring match, whatever it is, if time's running out and the score is tied, you learn so much about the people involved. Do they play defensively so they can have more time and thus build a real strategy, overtime or whatever? Or do they go all out and try to get the win? I'm the go for it guy. I'm the, hey, there's a month left of 2020. What else can we accomplish? It seems like most people out there are, there's a month left of 2020. Let's just hold tight. There's no wrong decision. You gotta do what works for you. What else is happening? It's all about this book. Getting this book done. I made a commitment to having this ready for Christmas. And I might have bit off way more than I could chew because somebody brought up editing yesterday. And I went, oh yeah, editing. It's gonna need a lot of editing. I can edit much of it. But then I'll be doling out chapters for people. Hey, can you edit this? But I'll do my best. I'd really like people to be able to gift this book for Christmas, which I figure probably gives me 2 weeks to finish it. Ugh. That's pretty much writing a novel in a month. It's a little ridiculous. Oh well. Stacy says it's awfully hard to edit yourself. It is. It absolutely is. And I've edited enough things over the years that I've got a strategy that works pretty well. It works for grammar and spelling and everything, because you've got Microsoft Word and you've got Grammarly, and reading it out loud catches a lot of stuff. But beyond that, once that once you're done with that, then you really have to give it to somebody else and say, hey, can you edit this? I think the thing I'm most concerned about with this is plot points that might be inconsistent, because these characters have depth, and there might be. And one of the things that drives me nuts in books and movies is when you see somebody handle a situation one way, and then later on they handle something very similar in a very different way, and it doesn't make sense. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. Oh, I hear the garbage truck. Good thing I put the garbage cans out. Yeah, it's supposed to be warm today, in the 50s, so I'll try to get outside, maybe go for a walk before the gym. Oh, that's good. Maybe after lunch. That's my day. That's Monday. All right. Let's see what we've got to talk about today. I know we got some stuff from Frank. Remember, if you got stuff you want me to talk about, go ahead, comment on the episode after it closes, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, because we do it 5 days a week. Yep, I got stuff from Frank. Thanks, Frank. November 2020 just so happens to be novel writing month, which I knew that, but that's not why I chose to write a novel. I had forgotten that when I chose to write the book. It was just that there was so much going on with the book in my head. I said, I've got to get this out. Just as I sat in bed last night with a journal and sketched out the roots of some thoughts on what would we call it? I guess quantum states in nature. Things I was thinking about on my hike yesterday. Sometimes you just gotta get it out. The difference between the almost right word and the right word is the difference between the lightning bug and the lightning. Mark Twain. One of the things I've noticed a lot about books, about writing, is that voice is not something that every author is concerned about. And there's two kinds of voice, as I see it. There's the voice that you hear in your head as you read it. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has tone and everything, but there's a cadence, there's emphasis on certain things. And as an author, you can have a lot of control over that. As a reader, you have ultimate control over that. But then, with the rise of audiobooks, and actually I got a message from Audible, I've got another credit, working on a book. Audible's great. The first book I wrote, The Martial Artist Handbook, is on Audible, if you want to check that out. But the voice that the narrator brings through, I don't mean their voice, I don't mean the tone of what they say. I don't even mean how they say it. I mean think of it like word order, like the way the sentences are constructed. You could write out a sentence in a lot of different ways. Say the same thing. But different sentence constructions lead to different impact. Just as we talk about the space between movements in forms and how critical that is, the space between words, you can do the same thing. The more time I spend writing, the more I like the analogy of martial arts being a language. a style being a specific language, and forms being a poem or a story, and I think it works. I think it works well. Just as you choose the right word, you choose the right movement when you're putting together a sequence. And the better you get, the less time you need to find that word or to find that technique. And we get so critical of ourselves and others with our techniques. And yet, when we were growing up, what were we told? Just write. Just write. We can edit it later. Practice your writing. Practice your movements. Practice life. You can edit it later. Can't tell if that's frost or snow. I think it's frost. Don't tell me the moon is shining. Show me the glint of light on broken glass. Anton Chekhov. One of the things people love and hate about Stephen King is how descriptive he is. I don't know that I've paper read any of his books. I've done a number of them as audiobooks. The Stand, the Dark Tower series. Wonderful books. I don't like horror, so I'm careful about what I read, because the idea of reading It or Pet Sematary, not my scene. And, kudos to Stephen King as a fellow native Mainer. But the ability to describe something, to use the right words so that everyone can find a way to relate to the words. Because this is something that I'm starting to realize. When I read a book, I might have an image in my mind, but you could read the same book and have a different image. The author may have had a completely different image. And being descriptive enough to give some parameters so you can refer to it and say, okay, this is what I see, versus something completely open like a person. There was a man standing there. What did the man look like? And now you start to describe it, and the more descriptive it is, the more similar my vision and your vision will be. But there's still space. There's space between the words. There's space in between the description. We've got our own personal experiences to apply to it, which is very much like forms. You and I can learn the same form from the same person. We can even do it with the same timing, same techniques. We can attempt to do it the exact same way. We're still going to do it differently. There's a reason that synchronized forms is so hard. Anybody who's ever done it, it's so hard. Why? Because instinctively we're going to do some things differently, and we're trying to drill down into that nuance and beat that individuality out of you for purposes of competition. And I think that's really fun. I really like that. It makes me wonder, and I've always wondered this, we describe, when I learned about color blindness and the fact that different people could see some colors and others not see them at all, made me wonder, what about those people who see it? Do they see it the same way? How do you know? Stacy says, it's wonderful to watch when it's good. Synchronized forms, absolutely. You show me 2 or 3 people who really have spent time training and getting that dialed in. Oh, it's amazing. It's one of my favorite things to watch. But what if I look at a tree, I know that those leaves are green, you know the leaves are green, but what if somewhere in our brain we see it differently? What if my green is your blue? Who knows? We don't know. mean, there's probably some really nifty scientific way to determine if I see the green correctly. Um, and it's unlikely that I'm seeing it differently, but it's an interesting philosophical exercise. Two more. You never have to change anything you got up in the middle of the night to write. Saul Bellow. Well, I sleep through the night. I don't get up for anything. Well, sometimes. I didn't wake up last night. In fact, I had a really strange dream last night. And it probably would make a good disaster movie. In my dream, there was this, I guess we'll call it intense magnetic field that existed in this place on the earth, and as the earth rotated, anybody that went through it died. And so you had to stay ahead of it. And the idea was you had 24 hours. Somehow I knew in the dream that if I could get through 24 hours, it would be okay. And I remember at the end, there was an hour left, and there was no way to get ahead of it anymore. And so I had shifted to looking for a way to get underground to some deep bunker or something. And that's when I woke up. But doesn't that make for the roots of a good disaster movie plot? It would have to be slower in 24 hours than one. It would have to take longer than 24 hours because nobody's going to survive that. But I thought that was an interesting concept. I don't think there's a movie like that. There might be. Disaster movies are fun. Because they're easy to understand, easy to focus on. What happens? You try to stay alive. That's it. And I think on some level, life's pretty easy. Even what we're going through right now, this would have been paradise a few thousand years ago. Our lives, yeah, there's a strong component of it right now that sucks. But it used to be a lot more sucky. It used to be a lot harder to be alive. And I think on some level we know that what's our primary drive? To survive. Number one, survive. Number two, procreate. And if we don't have to worry about survival, if we don't have to really put energy into that, I think it throws things off. I think we're a little unsettled and unsure. And I think this is why some people create disasters. This is why some people enjoy obstacle racing. Life's easy. I'm going to go make it harder voluntarily. And there's some psychology that backs that up. It's probably why I put so much time into creating so many projects, deadlines, and things. Because I'm trying to give myself something to make happen. Good morning, Nathan. And we got one more here. This one's from Jack Dan. I don't know that name. For me, writing is exploration, and most of the time, I'm surprised where the journey takes me. And that's been my experience. You know, I wrote out these notes on how this book would go and where these characters would go. And I find them saying no on some of these things. You know, I sit there and I'm writing and follow what they would do. I type it out and then hit the next bullet point. Okay, now they have to go here, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that they would go from this to that So that bullet point has to be rewritten. Where do they go now? How does the arc of the story continue without some crazy abrupt shift? It's got to make sense. I don't want people reading this book at the end saying it was well written, but it didn't make sense. Actually, what I really want them saying is, when's book 2? Because if it's well received, I'll write a second one. Yeah. And so sometimes when I teach martial arts, especially kids, especially forms, the idea of them making their forms dramatic can be really difficult for them to conceptualize that. You know, essentially it's acting, and kids don't have a lot of life reference to draw from, so they can act. So what do? I get them to imagine their favorite superheroes or characters on TV. How would they do it? And that helps. And really, I think that's what we all do. You know, we draw from our experiences, we draw from our imagination in everything that we do. And one of the things I truly believe is that creative energy is critical to who we are, to our growth as people, and I think it makes life better for us and for those around us. And one of the problems is creative energy is often stifled and judged, especially self-judged. Martial arts is a wonderful opportunity to play with that. It may seem silly, but the ability to learn how to shadowbox and have fun with it, even slowly, will open up not only your martial arts and your ability to do freeform movement solo and with partners, but it opens up other things too. It allows you to not judge yourself so harshly, not to accept that sometimes what comes is what comes. And it's there in that moment, and then it's gone, and you move on to the next thing. To judge the movements that you did requires you living in the past. You got to stay in the moment. And if you're sparring, if you're in a self-defense situation, you've got to stay in the moment. So practicing staying in that moment and accepting that what you did is irrelevant, it's gone, it's done with. You've got to focus on the now. It's a pretty valuable skill. All right, I'm going to go. I hope you have a great day. Welcome back to the real world for most of us, at least here in the US. It is Monday. I hope you go check out that episode with Sensei Roni. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you leave me some questions or some comments in the comment section today underneath this episode once the show closes, and I'll see you back here tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, bright and early here in the US. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you want to check out that Cyber Monday sale, well, you should be on the newsletter list. But if you're not, go check out the social media. It'll be out at any moment if it's not already for the code. 35% off all apparel. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace.